I had a dream that heading into the NFL draft, the 49ers would walk out with Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel still on the team, because there was one priority for me that was above all others, and that is win the Super Bowl this year. As I said to you, as soon as these rumors came up, I'm failing to figure out how any trade of either of those players makes you immediately better. I understand the finances. I understand the long play. Boy, I'm not in long play mood right now for the 49ers at all. So, kick the can down the road. Well, that seems like that's what they did, except for then the draft happened and you and I came in here and Bryant McFadden, who used to play for the Steelers for at least one afternoon, got the whole world in a tizzy about the fact that the Niners could still make a deal. Well, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, as we've mentioned a lot, they will be as honest as they can be, I think, in public comments. So when they firmly say something, I tend to believe it. Here's John Lynch on the Pat McAfee Show on conversations about trading Brandon Aiyuk and or Deebo Samuel.
When you talk about guys like Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo, they're guys we drafted. They're guys we take a lot of pride in what they've become, who they've become, and we couldn't be more proud of those guys. You know, during the course of drafts and off seasons, do conversations happen? Absolutely they do. We're past that now. And, you know, we're thrilled to add to that group Jawan Jennings, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, Danny Gray, and now you add Ricky Pearsall, Jake Cowing. I think we made an already strong group even stronger.
Okay. We've had those conversations. That's over now.
Yeah.
So that statement for me, I know that all the Rappaports and the Schefters of the world have stated very likely they're going to be on the roster, but anything can happen. Anything can happen. I don't think anything can happen anymore. The fact that he decided to go on Pat McAfee and say that, lock it in. You're starting receivers on week one are Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel.
It's done, yeah.
Unless Brandon doesn't show.
Or somebody gets hurt, certainly. That's always a possibility.
Yeah. So you know what I mean.
Right.
They're both on the roster.
And I would imagine that Brandon is going to show, and I don't think that I don't think the 49ers would have gone through the draft and had John say what he said to Pat McAfee if there wasn't a strong sense that Brandon Aiyuk is going to get signed. I don't think that John would have been that public about them, you know, him saying, these are our guys and they're going to be here. I think that, you know, they had offers, they had conversations, and they got to a point where they didn't get back what they were hoping to hear in a trade, and so now they move on to trying to work it out with Brandon Aiyuk.
I will tell you this. You remember the deals that came out that week that got us going, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I look at the Amon-Ra deal, and when the Twitter side of it, 4 years, $120 million, you're like, oh, crap. But then you go deeper into it. I think the 49ers saw those deals, and maybe you're right. They probably looked at Amon-Ra and went, oh, yeah, no, we can do that. Because Amon-Ra's guarantee is very low. That's all. It's a very high level of funny money in that deal. It's all about the guarantee, which is definitely what the negotiating point is for Brandon and his representatives. And I think that comp might have helped the 49ers. Because Amon-Ra, if you're just going by numbers, he's better than Brandon. That's a more productive receiver.
But a good comp.
Is it?
I think so. Because what Brandon Aiyuk does for the 49ers and what he does with fewer catches is as impactful. And you've mentioned this before. Yards per reception, Brandon Aiyuk is number 2 behind George Pickens. And in just raw yards, Aiyuk was 4th, right? Among wide receivers?
No, Aiyuk was 7th.
Oh, 7th.
Amon-Ra was 3rd.
Right, with how many targets for Amon-Ra? 150 targets?
164.
Yeah. So
and Brandon had 105. But Amon-Ra had 119 receptions, only trailed CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
Had the exact same number of receptions as Tyreek Hill. Brandon only had 75. So you can spin those numbers any way you want.
And where was Amon-Ra in yards? Was he ahead of Brandon Aiyuk?
Yes, third
he was
third
third
in the
in
league.
just yards.
1,515 yards.
Yards per catch, only Pickens was ahead of Aiyuk. I think there are good comps, and you look at Amon-Ra's contract, and he got $120 million, but 77 is guaranteed the total, but the actual guaranteed at signing is only 34.6.
That's low.
So those numbers, yes, even the 77. If you're the Niners and Aiyuk wants, let's just put it at $27.5 million per, which would be 4 years and 110. If that's where you settle it, 4 and 110, and the total guaranteed number is $70 million. Even if the guaranteed at signing is about the same, $35 million, that's workable for the 49ers.
Before we play the other part of what John Lynch said, do you want to have some fun for a second?
Sure.
All right, let's have some fun for a second. First, I'm going to tell you that you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco and Odyssey Sports Station. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Upgrade your savings dividend. Open a First NorCal first-class money market today, and your chance to win $500, a $500 credit to La Garza Sports Camp is coming up very, very shortly. And you, boy, again, you're going to want to win this. It's a great camp, and it's going to get you some free time and a breather, and your kid will come home tired and happy. Plus, even if you don't win, we'll tell you how you can get $50 off of a La Garza camp this summer, even if you don't win. So that's all coming up very, very soon. But Mark Grandy, if you please, game show music. We mentioned that Brandon Aiyuk was 7th in the league in wide receiver yardage. Amon-Ra St. Brown was 3rd. How many of the other top 10 can you name? That's 8 other players, and I'll give you 2, not 3, 2 strikes.
Only 2.
I'm only giving you 2 strikes.
Man, I'm starting in an 0-1 hole here. How many other receivers in the top 10?
In the top 10.
Can I name?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, some of them are super obvious, so that's why I'm narrowing it down to less wiggle room.
Okay.
All right. So you have St. Brown and you have Aiyuk. There are 8 others in the top 10. Who are they?
Well, you mentioned CeeDee Lamb was ahead of him, so I'll say CeeDee Lamb is one of them.
CeeDee Lamb number 2.
Tyreek Hill's got to be one of them.
Tyreek Hill's number 1.
Okay. Puka Nacua, he had a big year.
Number 4.
That's what gets tough.
Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
Sorry, contractually obligated to sing his name whenever I hear it.
It means no worries.
It means I won money. Yeah. That's what it means.
Boy, it means I'm out of the fantasy league. Bunch of crap and stupid Lucas. Crappy rules. Oh, Steiny, here's an extra 20 minutes because you're a senior citizen.
Well,
where were we?
Not wrong. We were, so now you've gotten you've got half. You only have 5 more.
Oh, I'm rolling.
You're killing it.
A.J. Brown?
Number 5.
Okay.
You have the top 5 off the board. Now you got to get the bottom 5.
I got to dig deep.
And Brandon Aiyuk is number 7. So you need number 6, 8, 9, and 10.
6, 8, 9, and 10. How about Stephon Diggs? He had a pretty good year.
Number 13. Number 13, Stephon Diggs. So that's it. You get one more strike, and this game is over.
YouTube is
use YouTube.
Well,
I mean, get some suggestions in there, YouTube.
The last thing I see is something about Danny Gray. I don't think it's Danny Gray.
Well, that's the other point I want to make about what John Lynch just said. But anyway, he did lie about one thing in that comment that we just played. So we'll have that in a second. But go ahead.
DJ Moore from Pierce Evans. I'll throw that out there.
Number 6.
Attaboy, Pierce Evans.
Moore, 1364. DJ Moore. So now you got to get the bottom 3.
Yeah.
With no wiggle room.
He says Nicole Collins. I don't think that's a real person.
Nicole.
He's going Nico. I was going to say Tank Dell.
He got hurt, though. He missed a lot of time.
I love that.
I'm going to go with Nicole Collins.
I love that Pierce wrote Nicole Collins.
Oh,
and
Nico.
Dibs cannot even, figure out who he's trying to say.
I can figure it out. I thought I was curious.
Nicole Collins, that's not a person.
I didn't think she had that great of a year.
Nico Collins is number 8.
Let's go,
By the
Pierce.
way, Pierce, if you've got the internet and you're just going to spell these out for him,
Pierce?
This is not that fun. Anyway, go ahead. 2 more. Can you do it? Number 9 and number 10 still on the board.
Dibs.
Jeez.
Got to get them both right or else it's a big old buzzer in your face. In the face.
Michael Pittman Jr.
Michael Pittman Jr.
Yes!
Number 14, Michael Pittman Jr. And Dibs, you are a loser.
Oh,
but thank you for playing.
Andres Brown, DJ Moore. I should have. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Mike Evans, number 9. We were looking for Mike Evans.
Okay.
And we
Thanks,
were looking
Pierce.
for Amari Cooper. Number 10.
There you go.
Amari Cooper.
It's better for the bit when I lose anyway.
Sir.
Nice. Let's give you a 2 for your Jim Carrey.
Oh, gosh. All right. Can I tell you the part that actually stood out in John Lynch's little commentary on Pat McAfee? Let me play it again.
When you talk about guys like Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo, they're guys we drafted. They're guys we take a lot of pride in what they've become, who they've become, and we couldn't be more proud of those guys. You know, during the course of drafts and off seasons, do conversations happen? Absolutely they do. We're past that now. And, you know, we're thrilled to add to that group Jawan Jennings, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, Danny Gray, and now you add Ricky Pearsall, Jake Cowing. I think we made an already strong group even stronger.
Okay, so it wasn't a lie, but what about this? How many receivers does an NFL team keep?
Do they keep?
Yeah, how many make the roster?
6 or 7,
Yep.
somewhere in there.
I think that's about right. I mean, he just named everybody. It sounded like he was going through the Bell Biv DeVoe roster there. Like, no, they didn't join all. Like, you drafted those guys for 2 reasons. One, a couple of the guys at the bottom of your group aren't any good. Danny Gray is going to be gone. Danny Gray's not making this football team. Okay? Like, if you've got Deebo and Brandon and a first-round draft pick and Juwan, that's already set. That's 4. Those guys are locks.
And usually you have 5, maybe 6 up on game day.
Right, so up on game day.
Correct.
And yes, you can keep guys on practice squad and things like that. So people might be around. But I'd argue that Cowens is very, very highly likely to make the squad from Arizona. Okay? And Chris Conley is very, very likely to make the squad. I think Ronnie Bell is probably someone who's going to be around. Could be a practice squatter type of a situation.
He's a special teamer, so
Yep.
he's a guy who probably will be up on game day just because he can play a lot of the teams.
I don't think Danny Gray's making this team. I don't think Danny Gray's going to be on the 49ers this year.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you look at last year and how often he played on offense, which is to say he didn't play on offense.
Yeah.
So, you know, even Ronnie Bell got just 6 catches, but he played every game. He played all 17.
He did.
He's a special teamer. And Chris Conley came in late, and he still played just 8 games. And you have a wide receiver core where if your name is not Brandon or Deebo, then, and Juwan, I'll throw him in that mix too, although he also played special teams. You've got to be able to do a lot of other things to be active and make this team, because when it comes down to special teamers, they're not going to play Brandon ever. Deebo is only an emergency. We need a big play kick returner. And other than that, if you're a receiver, you got to be ready to go.
Pearsall and Cowing, the 2 rookies that were taken by the 49ers. The other thing I was going to say about it is obviously they are bolstering and bracing themselves for the future. But I thought this was interesting that Lynch also said on the McAfee Show.
Part of my job is to think about the now and then to think into the future as well, think out. But we don't do that without thinking, can these guys contribute right away? And we have a vision for both those guys, how they can contribute and be a part. They represent a lot of the qualities that we like in our players. And they were the best players there for us at the time. And so we're thrilled to add those guys to an already strong room. And we're ready to roll forward. And we've got to find a way, like I said, just to get that much better. And we think we really helped our roster throughout this offseason, free agency, into the draft, and we're fired up about our team.
That is one thing I find interesting. So what he's saying is that those guys have a role this year, like right away. And to a degree, especially with Pearsall, I'd expect that. I do. This is, to me, a fascinating thing to think about. What is his role this year? What is Ricky Pearsall's role this year? And take out the understanding that someone could get hurt and it could grow.
Right.
But he said, we've got a vision for how he will contribute this year. What do you think that is?
I think he's a super 2. He's a super backup. And it doesn't mean that he'll never play unless somebody gets hurt, but I think that he is a guy who can back up all three spots in the slot for Juwan Jennings, out wide for Brandon Aiyuk, and also on the other side for Deebo Samuel. You can use him in a number of different ways. If you want to have some packages where Deebo Samuel lines up at running back, you can have him out wide in 11 personnel where you got 3 wide receivers. You can go Jennings, Pearsall, and Aiyuk with Deebo as a running back. If you're going to give McCaffrey a break, you can play him in place of Brandon. You can put him out there in place of Juwan. He's a very versatile receiver. I think he winds up about where Juwan was last year, playing time-wise, which was 33.8% of snaps. I think that's what you're looking at for Pearsall this year.
That would be great. That would actually be great, because I think that this question is a very, very, or the answer is a very, very important one, because I know what happens going into a draft, and I know what happens going out of a draft. Largely going out of a draft, if you're a fan of a football team, you've convinced yourself that all the picks were good. That's largely what happens. You're going to
I like the pick, Mark.
Yeah, you're going to work your way through the internet. You're going to find some YouTube. You're going to find somebody who said, these guys, like I saw the listing today, the Niners had 9 picks, right? Was it 9 or was it 8?
It was 10, and they went down to 8.
Okay.
They took 8.
They have 8 players. Of those 8 players, 6 of them were rated as quote-unquote elite athletes. I found that hilarious because I'm like, well, who's deciding that, number one? Number two, they just got drafted into the NFL, so I'm pretty sure all of them are elite athletes. But that kind of content gets us excited. And we've all decided now these picks were all good. They've been explained to us. You start to imagine it. You see C.J. Stroud go, Ricky Pearsall's elite. He's elite. He's elite. Okay, it's done. Ricky Pearsall is going to go for 700 yards this year, and then he's going to go into a big role in year 2. I'm telling you, it's a big old, I don't know. Like the year that Brandon Aiyuk was taken in the first round, we went through this. CeeDee Lamb, massive hit. Justin Jefferson, massive hit. Brandon Aiyuk, pretty massive hit. Jalen Reagor, total bust. Henry Ruggs, total bust. Jerry Jeudy, super disappointing. Those were the 6 guys.
Yep.
And by the way, the last 2 taken were 2 of the hits.
Exactly.
Jefferson and Aiyuk. So I'm as excited as the next guy about Ricky Pearsall, but dude, I got no idea if this guy's going to make his way to the field this year or not.
I put the over-under, I think yesterday or the day before you asked me, at 450 yards, and that feels a little bit high.
It feels hot.
Especially when you look at what Juwan did last year, and he didn't even get to 300 yards. And you were stunned at how small his numbers were, because it felt like every catch he made was a big catch, and many of them were, but the 49ers play 2 receivers a ton, and if Aiyuk and Deebo are healthy, and you fancy yourself a championship team, which they do, you're not just going to play around and go with Pearsall and Conley a bunch. It's not what you do.